Season 3 of Stranger Things has arrived. Well, actually, it arrived about a week or so ago, but I finished watching it yesterday, and so I wanted to get my first impression thoughts up online while they're still fresh in the old noggin. So, let's talk about them. That movie is a shit show. What you think you see, what you think you hear, that's what it's about. It's all a theater of the mind. No, it's garbage. It's garbage. Mood and atmosphere. Now that I really like. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see. Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. Yes, that's right. In this video, like I said, I want to give you my first impression thoughts on Season 3 of Stranger Things while things are still fresh. Now, I'm not going to dive deep into it. I'm going to reserve that for the next episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit with Tony Michael, which will probably be this coming Monday, not Sunday. Tony's got some photography business to take care of on Sunday, so we'll probably push it to Monday, but I'll let you guys know via social media very soon. So that's when we're going to dive deep into it and talk about all the intricate details and where we think it should go and all that kind of jazz. But because I just finished watching Season 3 yesterday and things are still fresh, I wanted to kind of get my first impression thoughts up online. So that's what this video is. Now, let me preface this video by first saying I am going to be talking spoilers. So if you have not yet seen Season 3, if you have not yet completed Season 3, do not watch the rest of this video, unless, of course, you don't give a frog's fat ass about spoilers. But if you do, you have been warned. I am going to start talking about spoilers. Okay. Here we go. So, what did I think of Season 3 of Stranger Things? I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot more than I did Season 2. But having said that, let's go back for a moment here, because I need to quickly sort of touch on Season 1 and 2. Not a lot, but I need to get my bearings here before I wheel into Season 3, because it's very important. I still think I like Season 1 the best. And the reason for that is the ambiguity of Season 1. The mystery, the Twilight Zone, Hitchcockian, it was like all that meets Spielberg and Carpenter. It was fresh. Yes, it was new. We hadn't seen anything like that. I'm a 40-year-old man, so I grew up through the 1980s as a young boy. I remember all the nostalgia and the Eggos and the He-Man and the, riding your bikes around and getting into all sorts of shenanigans and adventures with your white socks pulled up to your knees and your Converse. And I remember all that, right? As many of us do. So definitely, it was fun to watch that, and fun to watch a Spielbergian, Carpenter-esque, Goonies, Twilight Zone, unsolved mysteries, Hitchcockian kind of thing unfold before our eyes. It was really cool. It was really cool. And we were put in the same position as the characters on screen. So we didn't know what was going on. They didn't know what was going on. So we lived vicariously through them, and we were on this journey together. And there was something really special about Season 1. It could have been its own thing. They didn't have to go on. I understand why they did, of course, and they did leave it open. But they did not have to, and it would have been a tight, locked, and sealed sort of thing. So Season 1 has that ambiguity, mystery, creepy, like I had never binge-watched before in my life. And at the end of every episode, I felt compelled to continue, and I did, because every episode and every cliffhanger was rock solid and just like, what the fuck, right? Like, remember when do you remember your first thought when Hopper cut open the fake will and took the stuffing out? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, shit, man, this is like Twilight Zone fucking unsolved mysteries Hitchcock shit. Fuck. Yeah, love that shit. Do you remember your first thought? Like, what? It was awesome shit. So, love the ambiguity of Season 1. Now, obviously, when you continue any narrative that is a continuous story, you have to open things up. You have to progress the narrative. You have to reveal certain things about plot and characters and things like that. So the ambiguity begins to kind of fall by the wayside a little bit, because if you don't do that, you're just making the same movie or show over and over and over again, especially when it's a continuous story. So when we got to Season 2, because we had to reveal more about what was going on and what was happening, which I understand, but it felt like it was more of the same. It's not that I didn't like Season 2 at all. There's certain things about Season 2 I liked, but it felt a little redundant. It felt like we were doing a lot of retreads. We had been here, done this before. Same kind of monsters, dealing with the Hawkins' lab, dealing with the Upside Down, dealing with, the portal and all that kind of shit, which is why some of my favorite things about season 2 are the most different things about it. The relationship between Hopper and Eleven. Love every scene they're in, love watching them develop. Awesome shit. And ironically, my favorite episode of season 2, one of my favorite episodes, tends to be everybody's least favorite episode, which is episode 7, The Lost Sister. I think that's what it's called, and I think that's the episode. Now, to be fair, I understand people's criticisms of it. You get lost in this thing, and then all of a sudden, this one episode takes you over here, which has nothing to do with that, and it feels disjointed and weird and awkward. Like, what the fuck are we doing, right? It certainly was billed as a development piece for 11. I understand that. But because it was the most different, because it was finally going back to the setup they gave us at the beginning of the very first episode of season 2, I found it really interesting and intriguing. It's like, oh shit, so 11 is a number that there could be like 10, 9, 8, 7, fuck, what's going on? How many of them are, out there are there? Oh, this is fascinating. Like the concept and the potentiality was interesting to me, which is why I was totally engaged in that episode. But I understand the criticisms of it. I do, and they're fair. Maybe if that episode had come earlier in the season, maybe if they had actually had the whole point of that episode, sort of that narrative woven through the fabric of the bigger picture of season 2, because it was like some subplot that had absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the show. So it was kind of like, well, maybe if it did have something to do with the rest of the show, you began the season with that fucking episode, basically prepping us to say, hey, get ready for this. And we didn't see it till like 6 episodes later. So I understand, definitely, and I can see it's valid points, which is why I think they abandoned it, which is too bad, really, because I think there was something there. But anyway, so now moving into season 3, I like season 3 a lot better than season 2. So let's talk about my positives, what I like about season 3, and then I'll quickly talk about I'll say negatives, because I'm still marinating on these things, but things that are kind of in the negative side right now. Okay. First positive is love the pacing of this season. I don't want to say it's fast paced, because that might give some people the impression that things are moving so quickly that you don't necessarily understand what's going on, or there could be some moments where you really have to be, like this, or you'll miss something, which tends to happen a lot in these shows anyway. But I don't want to say fast paced, but definitely better paced. It was more interesting. Let's say that. So the pacing might even be a little faster pace, if you will, than season 1, but not quite as slow as season 2. I love the production design. The production design on every season just gets better and better. And what I mean by production design, of course, I'm talking about the set design. And every single thing you see in that show, every single thing, down to the cars, down to the posters on the wall, down to the coffee maker in the corner, down to the clothing, down to, of course, that's wardrobe, but still, wardrobe and production design, sets, everything that makes it look and feel like the 1980s is top notch. And everything in season 3 has to be from at least July 85 or earlier, right? And that's not easy to do. So the production design is fantastic. I believe Stranger Things, at least season 3, was shot digitally on the Red Cam, and their colorist, I believe, put a filter over it and did some things with the actual look of the show to make it look a little softer, not quite as harsh as you often get with digital exposure, and make it look a little more film-like. And it looks great. Like the production design, the wardrobe on this show continues to get better and better. So that's my number 2 positive. My number 3 positive is the special effects just continue to get better and better. So definitely, like, things are looking a lot more cinematic, which is awesome. But at the same time, there's a part of me that feels like, okay, let's not go too far, because you might lose a bit of the charm and the innocence of what made Stranger Things so cool, because it is supposed to take place in a small town in the middle of Indiana. So you don't want to lose that charm, that nuance that made Stranger Things kind of charming in a way, right? But then again, the kids are also getting older, so you're losing the charm with the kids as well. So what the hell, right? But definitely the special effects and everything. Just the mall alone. Now that mall was actually shot, that's in Atlanta, Georgia, or at least in the the area, not too far away from Tony Michael. So, but I mean, the money they would have put into the set design and the production design to make that mall look like a mall from the 1980s was huge. I mean, it was amazing. Everything looked cinematic. It was beautiful, a much bigger and larger scale. So that's number 3. Number 4 positive would be the character development. One of the things that I was worried about going into season 3 was, we better see them being true to their ages, because the characters, these kids are older now. They're like 14, 15 now, right? 16 maybe. I understand that the actual kids that play them, I think Lucas in real life is close to 18, I think. But the characters are like, 14, 15, right? So we have to see them being interested and talking about things that kids that age would be interested in. And not a throwaway line, right? Not a throwaway scene that just reminds us, oh yeah, they're 15 in high school now. No. I mean, we genuinely have to see things that are, really true to their characters on a consistent basis. And I was worried that we would see a throwaway scene, which would be the equivalent of like a throwaway line, like maybe the scene where Mike and 11 are kissing and Hopper's like, hey, I said 3 inches, open that door, and blah, blah, blah. I was worried that, is that going to be it, right? Just to kind of tell the audience, oh yeah, in case you didn't know, they're teenagers now, they're interested in sex and kissing, and then they forget about it. Not at all. That tension and that things that kids talk about that age, girls and guys and the different dynamics, was woven into the narrative, part of the overall bigger picture. So that I was happy about. Not that I thought the Duffer Brothers wouldn't do that, but we've all seen it before. We've seen throwaway lines and throwaway scenes before, just to kind of let you know, oh yeah, in case you didn't get it, here we are. And then they go off and do other things that they believe is the meat of the story, when in actuality, part of the meat of the story in Stranger Things is where these characters and these children are at these points in their lives. So it's good that they recognize that. So the character development was great and it was believable. I mean, are we surprised? The chemistry between everybody is just so great. This is the 3rd season now, so any hiccups they may have had in the first season because it was their first time and they were a bit younger, perhaps, is all gone. I mean, the chemistry is fantastic. Branching onto that, character development B, I would say, is the different subplots of stories that are going on between each of the groups of characters. Now, you guys know as well as I do that that's a tricky thing to do and pull off, because if you don't do it right and you don't do it well, you can be emotionally invested and attached into one character's story that's going on, but then when we pull away from that to go somewhere else, you become disengaged and disinterested. And that has happened a lot in movies. It's happened in TV shows. To be genuinely interested in every sub-story that's going on with all the characters is not easy to pull off. And they were able to do that. I did not find myself, like when they would pull away from, the kids and go over to Nancy and Jonathan, I didn't find myself going, oh, I didn't find that. Or going from Nancy and Jonathan to Joyce and Hopper, or from Joyce and Hopper to, back to the kids, or, I didn't find that there was any moment where I felt bored. So that's good. And part of that is the pacing of the show. So the character development has just gotten better, and the stories and seeing them progress and seeing how they're dealing with certain things in their lives right now is believable and solid. Love it. Love it. So everything to do with the characters and the production design and the visual aesthetic of the show and the pacing felt much better than season 2. And I was definitely more engaged, and it was awesome. Another positive for me would be the action. I mean, the action has taken up like 20 notches in this season, which is great. So not only is the action a spectacle to watch and very cinematic, this season is very cinematic, but in terms of being able to give some resistance to our characters. I mean, our characters were becoming a little too immortal. We're becoming a little too indestructible, and we need to see our characters in vulnerable situations and getting fucked up. And it was refreshing to see some of the main characters get fucked up. Because, if you think about it, everything that happened in season 1, everything that happened in season 2, and everything that happened in season 3 all happened within inside of 18 to 24 months of each other. I mean, if this was reality, everybody would be in fucking therapy for decades. I mean, it's fucking insane what happened here. And you wouldn't continue to live in Hawkins, Indiana. That's for sure. So, but of course this is fantasy. But it was nice to see, some of our characters get fucked up during these high octane, high tension sort of action scenes. So loved seeing that. So that's definitely another positive, and helped the pacing of the season, and kept things very visually interesting for sure. Another positive, of course, but this is sort of expected, will be the music. I mean, the music is great, but the music was great even in season 2. So the music is great once again, and I definitely want to get each season. I want to get each season's soundtrack, because I believe you can now. So definitely want to do that, because that's some fucking awesome shit. And yeah, some other positives. There probably is, but again, these are my first impression thoughts. So let's jump right into some of my negatives, or what I perceive to be negatives right now. But when I think about it a bit more and let it marinate a bit longer, maybe they'll jump ship over to the positives, and vice versa. Who knows? But anyway, let's move over to some of the negatives, I guess, criticisms I have with season 3 of Stranger Things. And leaping off from some of the characters that I had just been talking about, one of the criticisms I have with season 3 is the character, and I know this is not going to be a popular opinion, but the character of Erica, Lucas's younger sister. I love this little girl. I love this little actress. She is adorable. And I love her character for the most part, to a point. But I think the character of Erica and the, yeah, I know what you know what I'm talking about, and blah, blah, and the sarcasm and the quips and just got too much to me. It became too much for me. There was a point where I was like, oh my God, somebody fucking muzzle this little girl. Somebody leave her to the Russians, because it was too much. I wanted to see a little more vulnerability in Erica. She's a 10-year-old child. And although she's a little confident, and although she's a little sarcastic and a little witty and a little quippy, I get it. I don't want you to remove that, but you need to reel it in a bit, okay? Because I wanted to see a moment of vulnerability. Erica's never been through this. Dustin and Steve have, not necessarily through that, but they've been through a lot of shit over the last 2 seasons. They've seen shit, okay? So they've been in this kind of a situation before, and Erica hasn't. So I wanted to see a little more vulnerability. Maybe it gets to a point where it gets a little too real for Erica, a little too frightening for Erica, and maybe there's a moment between Dustin and Erica that is really nice, a real genuine bonding moment, because this is his best buddy's younger sister. Now, his best buddy doesn't know that she's down there with him, but if he did know, Lucas would want, Dustin to look out for her, man, right? And you kind of see that moment where maybe Erica's crying, or maybe she's genuinely scared, and there's a nice bonding moment there. I don't mean a bonding moment that ends with a punchline, or a bonding moment that ends with a quip. No, it was just too much. It got to the point where I wish somebody would be like, Erica, we love you, but you need to shut up. It was like every 5 seconds, every time she was on screen, she was quipping and punchline. It was like, who's writing her scenes, man? Reel it in. She doesn't need to be like that every 5 seconds. And I just felt it was a little too much. So I love her. She's adorable. It's not personal against a little actress. She was doing what she was told to do. But I think they needed to reel her character in a bit, because I was fucking annoyed by the end of the show. It was nice to see her little arc, because obviously she, didn't want to admit that she was nerdy, right? And then of course she gets a little box of Dungeons and Dragons from Dustin, I believe, right? And so she kind of has a little smile, like, oh, this might be interesting, So that was kind of cute, I like that. I love her. I just think they needed to reel her in a bit. So that's how I feel about her. Talking a bit more about characters, another criticism I have would be that the resistance is great, and the high octane action is great, but Jonathan got fucked up and he just seemed to be fine. It's like, I wanted to say, he got slammed over the back with a metal desk chair by Jake Busey's character. He got tossed into, I don't know how many fucking walls between Billy and Jake Busey, I think. And I think Billy threw him into a wall as well, I think. Maybe not. No, maybe not. But he definitely got tossed around by something, something. He got fucked up quite a few times, and there was no resistance there. He was just in the moment there was a bit of, but he was fine. He was running around later perfectly fine, and I was like, Nah, I think he should be limping. I think he should be bandaged up. I think, like, look at Steve. Steve just got the shit kicked out of him while sitting in a chair, and he's unconscious, and you can see his black eye and blood and shit. It was like, yeah. Obviously, you know he's going to be okay. But there was that trauma there that you would have in a situation like that. So I just wish there was a little more visual trauma, let's say, to Jonathan and some of the other characters. 11, I love 11, we all do, but if it wasn't for her Luke Skywalker's Jedi fucking powers, everybody would be fucked. And it got to the point where, I mean, thankfully by the end of the season, she lost her powers and she had the fucked up leg and all that kind of shit, which was great. But I thought maybe they could have introduced that a little earlier on in the season, because, you know, anytime there was any stakes or suspense, it was totally, you know, muted with 11 being there because she has Jedi fucking powers and you knew everybody was going to be okay. Like, she was fucking handling that mind flare like there was no fucking tomorrow. The only person she didn't handle with any sort of, well, she kind of did, but then there was some resistance, which was good, was Billy, right? And Billy had her by the throat and was trying to fuck her up. And I was like, yes. I mean, obviously I didn't want him to kill her, and I didn't think that was going to happen, but that was good. I liked seeing that. I liked seeing her, you know, vulnerable because she's still a child. Do you know what I mean? And when the mind Flair had her by the leg when he was tearing the cabin apart, I was like, oh, I hope he takes her out through the hole in the roof. I was really hoping that, not to kill her, but leaving the rest of our characters there going, oh shit, like, we're fish out of water now because we don't have our little Jedi master. Do you know what I mean? And maybe they spend the next episode searching for her, right? Like, where are you? And it's like, oh shit, like, what's gonna fucking happen? They're nobody without 11 now, right? So maybe there could have, although by the end of the season, she becomes vulnerable and becomes normal per se, like everybody else, I think you might have been able to introduce that concept earlier and made the stakes even higher and added a bit more suspense moving forward, maybe throughout the last 4 episodes rather than just like the last, 2 or 1. Like, for example, maybe when Billy's got her by the throat, right? Maybe she falls unconscious or something and he's so powerful and he pushes everybody back or something, right? And he takes her and there's something that Billy does. Maybe there's some sort of power that he has that causes her to lose her power, right? So now she's very vulnerable and he takes her to that fucking weird warehouse and, she's lying there, but, the kids don't know where she is and all that. I'm not saying that's exactly what you do. I'm just using that as an example of those stakes that could have been raised earlier in the film, and added a bit more suspense and a bit more, what's going to happen here? Because for the most part, outside of the Billy scene where he was choking her, that was good. I like that. I never really felt like the kids were in any real danger because they have fucking Luke Skywalker. It's going to save the day every time. So, it was nice to see that by the end, she was fucked up and she lost her power. That's good. But I think they could have done a little more, and just added a little more suspense when it came to 11. She's not quite, but there's moments where she's borderline indestructible. And it's kind of like, oh, come on. Let's just not go that far. Another criticism I would say, although the pacing is great, the characters are great, and I love this season a lot more than I did the second season, there are moments of kind of more of the same. I mean, again, we're dealing with the Upside Down. We're dealing with that fucking portal again. We're dealing with, the Mind Flayer again. And although I add leniency to it because I understand that we've yet to see the Mind Flayer fully realized. And the Duffer Brothers wanted to probably do that. We need to see it fully realized now. We've seen it kind of coming on the horizon, but we need to see it fully realized. And so that I understand. But we're dealing with the same sort of shit. But I was kind of hoping that, maybe there was another dimension that they were dealing with, right? Maybe it's connected to the Upside Down, but it's a dimension to somewhere else, right? You know what I mean? I mean, this is Stranger Things. It's not Stranger Thing, So I was kind of hoping that maybe I don't know, we were dealing with just much more, I mean, bigger and on a bigger scale, but still the same kind of stuff in some ways. So I was kind of hoping that maybe they would expand on that, and they didn't. I mean, they did, but they didn't. But I understand at the same time that we had yet to see the Mind Flayer fully realized. And really cool how that came to be in terms of the flayed and, you know, kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of shit. And, you know, like, yeah, like I love that stuff. So that's all great. But I was kind of hoping maybe for a little something a bit different. Like at the end, when, you know, the post-credit scene where they go into the room and they feed that guy to this creature that's about to come through the wall, and you're like, oh, what the fuck is that? And then it's just a Demogorgon again. And it's like, again? And I know that they probably want the audience to go, oh, it's the Demogorgon again. But I was kind of like, oh, it's the Demogorgon again. Like, I'm kind of like, here's your opportunity to introduce something we've never seen before. Something like, oh, what the fuck is that shit? Oh, shit. And it's just the Demogorgon again. And it's kind of like, oh, guys, come on. Like, make something different. You know, make something like it's a different creature we've never seen before, we've never heard of before, that's more powerful than we could possibly imagine. You know, or something, I don't know, just something that I was hoping to be a bit different. But, you know, we'll see how it plays out, right? So there is still that redundancy that is there in season 3, but because of the character development and because of the pacing and the high octane cinematic action, you tend to forgive it more in this season than you did in season 2, which is why I think it works better in season 3. Yeah, I think, loved Hopper's death. Loved it. Really enjoyed Hopper's death. I would be okay if he actually did die. There's no doubt he's going to come back. And there's no doubt that the American in the jail cell is probably Hopper. I mean, it could be Papa, but it's probably Hopper. But I would be okay if it wasn't. I'd be okay if it wasn't, because it gives some gravity, it gives some weight to the season, because somebody's got to die. Somebody of significance has to die. Whether it's Eleven, whether it's Hopper, whether it's Joyce, somebody's got to go, you know, somebody, because everybody who's ever died in these seasons tends to be a little expendable, right? Bob, you know, you got the Russian guy. I'm not saying it wasn't emotional for some people. I'm not saying that, but he's expendable. Right? You know, the big Russian Arnold guy, expendable. You know, Bob, pretty expendable. Hopper, not so much. But you know, he's probably not dead. They're pulling a Marvel thing. So it's kind of like, I'd be okay with it. Ballsy move. Don't think they're going to do it because he's beloved and I love him as a character too. He's probably my favorite character in the show. But I'd support it because I think, yeah, it's ballsy. It gives weight to the show. It gives some genuine realism to the show. But I don't think he's gone. So, yeah. So anyway, those are my first impression thoughts. I'm going to have more thoughts on the next episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. We'll dive deeper into it because Tony is going to have some fucking thoughts too. And we're definitely going to talk about where we think it should go and what we think should happen next. But I will definitely post, when that will be, via social media. So look out for that. So anyways, folks, my name's Dave McRae. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. What did you think of season 3 of Stranger Things? Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Comment below and let me know, because I'd like to know. If you want to follow me on Facebook, you can at facebook.com/manythingsdavemcrae. That's where I tend to post in the meantime and in between time, and I'm not posting here. All the links are in the description. You can follow and click till your heart's content all down there. So yeah, just have to let all these thoughts continue to marinate, and I'll be able to expand on what I talked about here, even though this is a long video, but you guys know me, I like to be thorough. I'll definitely be able to expand on this on the next episode of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. So yeah, in the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers.